so we talked about the Pythagorean Theorem and the definitions. So now we're going to, just like it says, find the hypotenuse. And I kind of gave you a little preview with that last definition of what we're going to be doing. So turn to page 2 in your note packets. We're going to talk about some example problems. Here we go. Number 1. So draw this right triangle for me. And you got your right angle. We're going to make this side 12 centimeters. And we're going to make this side 16 centimeters. And this side, we're going to put X. Now, if you remember from yesterday, the legs make the right angle. So those are your A and your B. I'm going to go ahead and put A here and B here. And then the longest side, the diagonal, we're going to refer to as C, and that is the hypotenuse. So the definition, again, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. C squared is right here. That's the hypotenuse. And as you can see, we just have X. So I'm going to replace C squared with X squared equals, and then I have my legs, which are my A and my B. So I'm going to replace that with 12 squared plus 16 squared. And it does not matter which one is A and B, so you can change that up if you need to. So 12 squared is 144 plus 16 squared, you can calculate that on your calculator. If you don't know, it's 256 equals X squared. Now we do the math. 144 plus 256, kind of more equations. Told you we do a lot of equations this year. So that's 400. Bring down your X squared. Now, remember, in order to undo the squared, we have to do the inverse operation, and the inverse operation is square root. So we're bringing back those square roots. These two cancel, squared and square root, leaving me with X equals, and then square root of 400. You can do that on your calculator as well. Square root of 400 is, dun, 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 20. So, I would attach a label because you notice it's centimeters. So this would actually be 20 centimeters, and la, 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 that's what X is. All right, so here we go. Example number 2. So I'm going to draw my right triangle this way just to kind of maybe change it up a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't confuse you too much. These are my legs, and this is my hypotenuse. And remember, the legs always make the right angle, and then the hypotenuse is directly across from the right angle. So easy to remember that as well. This is 15 millimeters. This is 8 millimeters. And then this is X. So again, we use our formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So I plug in my legs. That would be 8 squared plus 15 squared equals C squared. I don't know. That's X squared. So I'm just going to kind of highlight. Those are my X's. And then here's my legs, A and B. And here's my legs, A and B. So putting those colors to it to help you out. 8 squared is 64. 15 squared is 225. And that equals X squared. 64 plus 225 is 289 equals X squared. Got to undo the squared by taking the square root. Those cancel each other out and leaves you with X. And the square root of 289 is 17. Throw on a label, and we're talking 17 millimeters. Okay. All right, number 3. Now, those all kind of nicely, worked out. But sometimes they don't work out, and we have to do some rounding. And that's what's going to happen here. So here's my right triangle. Again, kind of turned it again, just for you to get used to seeing it all different ways. So this is 3 centimeters. This is 7 centimeters. And then this is X. Again, the legs make up the right angle. So here's my legs. And then the hypotenuse is the diagonal, or the longest side. It's also directly across from the X squared. So I have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And I plug in 7 squared plus 3 squared equals X squared. 7 squared is 49. 3 squared is 9 equals X squared. 49 plus 9 is 58 equals x squared. I have to undo the squared by taking the inverse, which is the opposite. Those cancel, leaving you x equals. Now, when you do the square root of 58, it's an irrational number. It goes on forever. So a lot of times you'll see some kind of directions to round to the nearest. And this time we're going to round to the nearest tenth. So if we round our answer to the nearest tenth, that would be 7.6. And those would be centimeters. All right, last but not least, one more example. And this one doesn't happen to have a triangle set up. Instead, it just says like this: legs are 2.1 inches and 7.2 inches. And I need to know what the hypothenuse is. So that's our blank. So again, no different than what you've been doing. You're going to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Plug in your legs, so 2.1 squared plus 7.2 squared equals c squared. 2.1 is 4.41. 7.2 is 51.84 equals c squared. And so then I add those together, 4.41 plus 51.84. And again, you can use your calculator for all of this, is 56.25. I don't think it's going to come out nicely, so we'll say round to the nearest tenth maybe, equals c squared. Then undo the squared by taking the square root and taking the square root. So c is equal to 56.25, taking the square root of that, and you're copying 7.5, throw on a label. These were inches, so inches. So my answer would be, let me just write it in blue so it kind of shows up, 7.5 inches. And ladies and gentlemen, there you have the Pythagorean theorem, finding the hypothenuse.